Amanda McLaren, and this is the Papaya Pod.
Welcome back to Papaya Pod's IndyCar review. Myself, James, and Keith, we're back. Race 4 of the season, coming from Barber Motorsports Park, the Children's of Alabama race. Keith, what an absolute blinder.
Wasn't it a cracker? And it's actually one of those circuits, James, that I really love. I love all the artwork around it. And of course, after those, after Georgina's special visit, we always wait and we wait. Will Georgina join us again trackside? No, it was a cracking circuit, and it was a great race with some good bits which we're going to pick up on.
Yeah, it was indeed. It was an absolute phenomenal race. A bit more excitement than what we've been used to in recent times, really. Specifically, the same race of last year, where Palou was. I mean, he won last year by a best part of a country mile, didn't he? He was a bit ridiculous in the end. I know as we'll go on to, there was quite a considerable margin at the end of this one. But things could have gone a lot different as we get into. Half the reason why it's taken us an extra day or two to record this, because I had to cool down a little bit, Keith.
Yeah, you did get a bit heated. You did get a bit, you definitely
Yeah,
did.
the head was going a little bit, and I thought, right, let's get a bit more professional. We need another day to get behind this. So
Yeah.
we'll jump in. We'll cover the top 10 nicely then, Keith. We'll just go through them, starting from 10 to 1, I think. Mr. Newgarden came in 10th.
Yeah.
A good finish really for him. I mean, he got back in the top 10 in a race that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, Keith. I don't really recall seeing him much in the race.
No, not really. I don't remember there being a lot of airtime with Mr. Newgard, and and qualifying, he didn't really sort of stand out as a big contender. So yeah, he kind of was a bit like we often say. He was one of those secret assassins. He was a silent ninja that just worked his way up through good pit stops. Obviously, a good strategy by his team. Got him in, got him out clean. Yeah, moved up.
Yeah, and again, he's keeping him in thereabouts in the championship.
Yeah, yeah,
He just feels a little bit different this year. Granted,
yeah,
Palou is in a good spot, but
yeah.
it does seem a little bit more competitive than last year. It might just be me. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I don't think he's getting that lead where he was so far out in front that we couldn't see him. We did have the front runners picking up the back markers, but that's always going to happen on races. It happened in the F1, it happens on the IndyCar, and it also sometimes makes for good overtakes because they're defending not to be they don't want to be a lap down, so they're going to fight because they're allowed to. So yeah, like it.
Very much so. And we did see that quite a bit.
Mm.
Obviously, at one point, we'll get into it as we get into the top three, but a
Mm.
certain teammate was at the back of the grid and could have
Mm.
posed a bit of an issue for one of our McLaren boys. But we'll come into that when we get into the top three. So in ninth place, Andretti had another good weekend, Keith. Marcus Ericsson up in ninth. Um, first half of the race, I'd say we've seen quite a bit of Ericsson.
Yeah, yeah.
He was cropping up here and there, tailed off towards the end where there was a bit more battle going on at other parts of the track. But yeah, another good finish for Ericsson. Performing far better than last year, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Sorry, my phone was ringing then. If anybody heard that, I'm sorry about that. It's very unprofessional. Yeah, it was another good drive as well, wasn't it? It is a better season, James. You are right there. We are seeing the names and the phases we would expect to see. And these top 10 finishes, I think this year are going to keep that championship more alive than perhaps it has in the past. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, he's definitely looking that way. I do
Yeah,
feel more excited, a lot more hopeful as well. I feel like
yeah.
there's a chance there. Again, as we'll get to a bit later on, for one of the boys in Papaya to really go for that title this year.
I hope so. I hope so. I really hope so. But again, that Andretti name, it's a big name in racing. They've been there for a long time. We expect them to be racy, but with the Arrow McLarens now, we expect them to be racy. And of course, we had one that was, which we'll get in the top three, but we had two this weekend that even the man himself said, I don't know what was going wrong. The car just got worse as the weekend went on. But that's a whole different story. So, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. We'll come on to the boys in Papaya a bit later on, I think, because we're gonna have to pull that one apart a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah,
Eighth place, Mr. America, Mr. Ferrucci. Again,
yeah,
quite from the start of the pit stops, he was there or thereabouts when he was knocking on the door of the podium for a bit. And of course, as we've seen, and Mr. Will Buxton kept us in tag with. No one really knew what he was going to do with the tyres. The strategies was all up in the air. Was he
no,
going to go with the reds? Was he going to go with the
yeah,
blacks? We didn't really know
yeah,
what was going to happen.
yeah.
And he came into play a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's a great shout. He really did. He was very, very fast at times there. He was a little bit of ferocious as well, Ferrucci. So he was really doing it. But, listening to Tom Gaymore on Sky Sports and listening to Will, we just didn't know. Was it going to be the primary? Was it going to be the red? We just didn't know what tyre and what strategy was going to play out because there wasn't one defined one, was there, this weekend? It was a case of some cars were working well on one tyre, other cars weren't. Just a very strange setup process for some of those cars, I think.
I'll be honest, Keith, I'm still not sure that we know what the best strategy was. The race is over and done with. I'm still not convinced that we know what the best strategy was.
I'm absolutely right. I still don't know if they actually came up with what was the best tyre in the end. Which one was outperforming the other one? Which was,
Yeah, I mean, it was very strange. I think we'll touch upon the tyres a little bit more as we get into the top three.
I think we'll have
Because as
to,
we know, one of the guys made those red sticker tyres work.
didn't he
Um,
just?
so we'll come into that. Next on, we can move up to seventh place, Captain America himself, Scotty Dixon.
Yeah.
He's got into the top 10 again. He thrives when we don't really know what strategy is going to work, doesn't he? He knows exactly what to do. The experience really shines for him.
And I think you're absolutely right. There's that track experience, that longevity, and the ability to use both tyres and race both tyres. He's always one of those that you expect to be on a slightly alternate strategy anyway, just to sort of put the cat amongst the pigeons, as they say, because he just knows his car and he knows how he likes it to be set up and how it feels. So yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Bit of a surprise comes in next at six.
Yeah,
I'm
doesn't he
not necessarily
just?
surprised. I was a bit harsh on him after the qualifying session he had, but not a name you normally see floating around the top 10 on a regular basis. Marcus Armstrong.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, it was a pleasant surprise to see him up in that top 10. He was, I thought that perhaps we would have had more of Rossi at one point than, but there you go. That's our race, especially Barber, how it can change so quickly from qualifying to actually the race. So yeah, it was a good solid finish, I think.
Yeah, and as you mentioned then, Rossi, I mean, for a long period of that race,
Yeah,
it looked like he was going to get into that podium spot. He
didn't
had
it
those
just?
alternate tyres working well for him.
Yeah.
And he was convinced that that was the tyre that was going to surprise everyone. And for a good 30% of the race, he was probably right.
I honestly thought we was going to see another Rossi podium. I thought, it's been a long time coming that he's going to be there again. But again, as that race panned out and the strategy started we saw that sort of stepping backwards mode, which again we saw from our very own Pato as well. So,
Yeah, we did, unfortunately.
mm,
So in fifth place, we have the current championship leader, Kyle Kirkwood.
yeah, yeah,
Mr. Andretti at the moment, you could say. Very much outperforming willpower at Andretti. Um,
yeah.
well, at the moment, he's outperforming everyone, isn't he? I mean, even Alex Palou. I mean, and after this race, he still managed to hold on to the top spot in the championship. Another very good race. Put those
Yeah,
tyres to work for him. And again, he was able to hunt down the cars ahead of him and get himself in a good spot.
he seemed very confident all weekend when the cameras went on him and they were talking to him during practice, during qualifying. Yeah, you could almost see that he felt very comfortable in the car. He was confident in the car. Yeah, yeah, it was a good solid finish, and of course he still holds top spot in the championships. And we know that, especially in IndyCar, every point matters.
Oh, it doesn't adjust. Um, Dave Malukas got up into fourth. It looked like
Yeah,
at the end he was going to take that final podium spot away from who we going to come on to next.
Yeah,
He was hunting him down a little bit there, and he had an enormous amount of push to pass left, didn't he? I
when
think he had more than he could use at one point.
he had 60 seconds of push to pass left, or was it 100? I know it got down to 60, and then we started seeing him use it. And at one point, I thought he was going to be our contender for the third spot of the grid, which we'll come back onto in a minute. But yeah, I mean, there was a bit of me thinking, oh, please, Dave. No, Dave. But yeah, that again, another really great drive, solid finish. Well done to his team for getting him in, getting him out, and give some good, clean pit stops for him.
Yeah, and he really has stepped up to the plate, the team Pence. We spoke about this in the pre-season preview we did. Was he going to be able to take that leap up, the step up? And
he certainly seems to have done, doesn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, he most definitely does. He's doing a job.
He is doing a job, and he's doing a good job of what he's doing. So
I heard the statistic at the start of the race. I believe it was Mr. Buxton again threw this one out there, that Dave Malukas and Alex Palou are the two highest qualifying racers on the grid currently, with an average of 3.4 for qualifying.
Well, that says it all then, doesn't it? That speaks volumes, doesn't it? That really does speak volumes.
So now, Keith, we're going to go into the third spot, the first of the podiums. And the reason that we was hoping that Mr. Malukas didn't manage to get it in there was because we finally got Mr. Graham Rahal back on the podium. First time since 2021, I believe.
And let's be honest, he was looking pretty racy for a lot of it. He was our main contender for that spot at one point there, and we had to get the Lundgard lunge needed to come out, didn't it? Let's be honest, to get us there. And again, though, they were using their push to pass to really defend and attack one another. I would say it was good, clean, fun racing as well. It kept us on the seat of the edge of our seats. I'd be honest, I liked it. It was great to see Mr. Rahal back up there. I very much enjoyed that battle and that tussle that we saw. So.
Very much so, and for any of us, I know you're a bit like me with this one, Keith. If you're into the underdog and the older head, I mean, we both the wrong side of 40 now, Keith, myself, and you. It's nice to see those guys still putting out performances, and we saw that there. It would have devastated him if, after being in the podium for such a long period of that race, if he didn't manage to secure it.
I would have burnt the stadium down if I'd have been that driver. I would have really. But no, it was fantastic. It was great, and again, it just shows you that the age in racing is not always a major factor. That using their racecraft, their understanding of cars, and that. I love to see the older guys still mixing it up out there. I think it's fantastic. It's great. It's not always the young guns. Some of our older guys can still be there and be very competitive.
Totally agree. But I'm glad on this occasion that it wasn't too competitive, because my man, Mr. Christian Lundgard.
Woohoo.
What a race he had, Keith.
What a drive. What a drive. James, it was fantastic. I was watching him. I was willing him all the way to the podium. And I'll be honest, I think we know the stats that the time he lost on that pit stop would have actually put him in contention to be fighting for the very top step. But I'm going to quickly pick up on that, if I may, James, because one of the things I don't like, and you know this about me, is I don't like the online trolling and the bullying and everything that goes with it. So, do you know what? It was an absolute shame. Was I gutted that we dropped a wheel nut and the wheel didn't go back on? Of course I was. I'm a red-blooded full race fan. And I was, come on, get that wheel. But are you telling me that none of us have ever dropped the ball at work? I know I was in a job, I was in the military, as you know. That was a job where you really didn't want to make mistakes at times. But did I break Land Rovers, tanks and trucks? Oh, hell yeah. Of course I did, And that was acceptable. And what I think was, that's racing. That is racing. We don't like it. It was one of those things. But do you know what? Any other day, that guy could be the one that they all looking up to. He could be the pinnacle of race engineers, of wheelman. And they will go, yeah, we've got to be like number 4. We've got to be. It was one-time deal. Okay, maybe cost us a top step. But to ask to have him fired, to give him death threats, no, let's not go. No, we don't need that. It was gutting. Totally it was a pain. But do you know what? We came back from it. Christian must have changed that mindset. He got back in the zone. I mean, you or I got back in the zone? I would have probably been sweating and swearing for another good few laps before I got my head back in the game. But he didn't, did he? He got back in the game. He put the blinkers on, and it was like that. It was my position, and I'm going for it. And
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Keith. And as you know, I'm a Christian guy. I
you
love
are.
nothing more than for him to got his first win at Barber. I
It
love
would have
nothing
been
more
fantastic.
than for him to go on and win the championship this year.
Yeah, definitely.
But at no point
definitely.
am I going to rip that poor fella over a mistake.
He would be doing it himself.
It was incredibly high stakes.
Yeah.
And we've seen it after the race. I don't know if you've seen the photos, Keith, of he sort of, it appears that he sort of went up and apologised to Christian after the race, and you could see there was no issue there. It's racing, it happens. We will go into the statistics, though, Keith. Just
Yeah.
I want to claim every bit of that top spot as much as I can.
Yes.
So at the time of the final stop, as we know, Christian was on his red stickers, and he was flying. He was still pulling out faster laps. He actually
was
got the fastest lap of the race out at that point of the race. So the average pit stop for the race was 7 seconds. We're not talking about the into the pits and out of the pits. We're just talking about the actual stop.
The stationary part.
Because I believe on average it's about 20 plus seconds for an average stop. But we just talk about the actual work itself. 7 seconds was the average race pit stop on the race. Christian Lundgaard's the stop that we're talking about, it was 17 seconds.
Yeah.
So 10 seconds behind the average stop.
And that's a lot of time in racing.
Very much so. On returning to the track, at that point, he came out in third, as we know. He came out behind Rahal.
Yeah.
Alex Palou was 13 seconds clear.
Yeah.
So there still would have been a 4-second overlap. He would have still had to make it 4 seconds.
But 4 seconds is a lot more than 10.
It was a lot easier than, well, the 13. And I think by the end of the race, he got it down to about 10 or 9, didn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, devastating, however much I'd like to claim the win. Off the figures, Billy alone, he still would have had to have passed Palou on track.
Yeah.
Which I was all in on that. I think he probably would have. Those Lundgard was out in full force during that race, wasn't he? We saw
absolutely.
3 or 4
Yeah.
phenomenal overtakes. One on Ferrucci that springs to mind.
Yeah.
Obviously the one on Graham Rahal at the end of the race.
Yeah.
And there was another one, but it slips my mind who it was at the time. The one he put a nice lunge on someone prior to Ferrucci. But it might have been Armstrong, Ericsson. He was somewhere down in that region. But what a race he put out there, and that's got to give him extremely high hopes for the rest of the season. He's in a very good spot. He's third in the championship. It's looking good.
Yeah, I think his self-esteem would have gone up. His self-confidence, self-belief is all going to be there. And, he knows he's got the car that can do it, and he knows he can do it within himself. And he knows that the team will let them race each one of our cars. Yes, they're a team, 5, 6, and 7. They're numerically they're there, but each one of those is allowed to race their own race. So he's got that backing of the team. And let's be honest, he's not a slow guy. He's a guy that can absolutely take the car to the very limits. We've got, dare I say it, we've got 3 fantastic drivers. We've got 2 very, very competitive drivers in the number 5 and the number 7, where they will push each other to the absolute limits. Yes, they'll be careful on the track and they won't take each other out, but will they race each other wheel to wheel? Absolutely, they will.
Yeah, you can believe it.
And that's what we want, isn't it?
I agree with you. And as anyone that's rocked up on one of these podcasts before, they know with us that we don't hate on any of our guys. We'll come on to car number 6 shortly. But as you say, we got 3 very good drivers, 2 championship contending drivers. I think that's probably the most.
That's the politest way of saying
that we can be with this, really. Because undoubtedly 2 of those guys on any given season could win the championship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You probably wouldn't be. I don't think even the most passionate fan would be saying that about our 3rd driver at the moment.
Number 6, Nolan is He's getting great coaching. He's going to get great feedback from the guys. He's in a team that will support him and nurture him. But I think, as we said pre-season, this is the year that we need to see Nolan getting up into that top 10 in more regular racing. We need to be in there in the ovals. We need him there or thereabouts. And it would be great to see that happen. And I still say it's very early in the season. He's still got time to shine. And I just hope that he can do that for himself as well as our team, and take that number 6 car to where we know it could be.
Yeah, exactly. Again, for a large period of the race, he was knocking on the top 10, around the pit stops. It just wasn't to be, was it? So obviously, rounding off the podiums.
Here we go again.
Predictable here, Keith. Alex Palou.
Absolutely, yeah.
He is Mr. Consistent, isn't he?
And that's
you've
the key,
got to really go out there and do something special to take that top step away from him.
He pushed those tyres. Others had been pitting, getting rid of those tyres, and he was still consistently putting lap after lap of. He dropped off a little bit compared to some of the changeovers, but you know what? He was still pushing to the limits. There must have been wire sticking out those tyres by the time he got in and changed them over, because he made them work. He made the car do what it can do.
Yeah, very much so. Incredible racer. I think everyone would want him on their team if they had the option.
Yeah.
But he's not on our team, so that's all we're going to say on that one.
He's definitely not on our team, but I suppose it's looking now, then it's really that time we go, what happened number 5? Come in number 5, your time is up. Number 5 wasn't a happy car. Pato wasn't. He said that car, it felt great at the beginning of free practice, and then it started to have problems, and in qualifying he said he just didn't seem to have the boost, the power. And we know that this guy is a guy that can change the towing on his car. He can make things happen. He's Mr. Fast Hands at the best of times. But
yeah, he just wasn't meant to be, was he? It was
just
a
wasn't
real
there, was
strange
he?
race for him.
Right.
Again, other than when the pit stops, he never really knocked on the top 10, and that's not Pato. Anyone that knows Pato knows that's not it.
That's definitely not our Pato, no. And we saw him edging up, and I was thinking, please make this a clean pit stop. Please make this a clean pit stop, which I'm sure they were. And then when he came back out and it'd be like Pato's back in 19th, I'm like, how? How have we lost that many spaces when we were still fighting? And other people went in at the same time and they were still up in the top. And I was like, what is that car doing? And he said he didn't have the overtakes available. The car just wasn't playing.
No, it wasn't. And very frustrating to see. Obviously, a guy, like we said, you're expecting to see Pato challenge for the podium every weekend. So it's a bit of pill to swallow, so to speak, with that one. Especially when there's no answers.
This is it, isn't it? And I think this is like we said with the wheelman, though, James. When it comes to racing, there are times when we just don't have the answers. The best teams in the world can fall off, and they can go. It's not until they can get back and dive into the telemetry, dive into the engine, run it up to race pace and go, well, we just didn't have the boost. We weren't quite there. Something wasn't playing the right way. But he'll come back fighting. He's the people's champion. Everybody loves a bit of Pato. Come on. He is the fans' favourite. And
100% he will.
Do you know why he's the fans' favourite? Because, he's so real, James. He's so real. I know that Marion is a great friend of mine. She's a Pato fanatic. She's fantastic, bless her heart. And she says he remembers people. He talks to the kids. He takes his bracelet off. He does swaps with. This is a racer that's at the top of his game, and I think he's always going to be the fans' favourite. So I think there's a lot of heavy hearts, which is probably where people are going, Keith, why are you talking about this? There's probably a lot of sulky people in the grandstands when number 5 was right at the back, but he still came out smiling. He never shows his frustration in front of his fans. He doesn't badmouth his team. He's a true ambassador. He really is. So
yeah, very much so. And let's be fair, it's not like his season's over, is it? I mean, he's still in 6th.
Exactly. He's still there.
He's there. A couple of good races now where he maybe gets a win, or certainly on the podium. He's going to be right back in that championship hunt.
Come next race, he'll be back in race mode. His head will be back in the game. he will be putting that car right where it needs to be, and he will take that car to the limits. And I know he took that car to the limits this weekend. The car, though, didn't have the limits. That's the problem. He drove it beyond its limits, but it just didn't have that power to deliver.
The car's limit was 17th for the race, unfortunately.
So
which
he's never
moves us
going
on to car 6, sorry, in 18th race. Our third driver, as we've sort of touched upon, Nolan Siegel. Another difficult race for him. Again, no real answers. He didn't do anything wrong.
He didn't get beaten
I don't know
up.
if he done anything right either. That's the problem.
He didn't get beaten up like in the start. He didn't get swallowed up too badly. But I don't know. Do we want? I think we all like an aggressive driver. Most of us like guys that don't mind going wheel to wheel, but knowing their limits of wheel to wheel and pushing it. And I'm sure that Nolan's probably got that somewhere, but I'd quite like to see him unpack that, if I may be, I'm not being rude, but I'd like to see him unpack those skills that brought him to our own McLaren. Because at the end of the day, we wouldn't have hired him. I'm sure that Zach and the team and TK, they wouldn't have hired him if they not thought he'd got the skills and the technique, the ability to do these things. So I'd quite like him to unpack it and get it moving. Let's see some of that racing that we know he can do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's there. It's got to be there. He's racing IndyCar. I know you'll have certain people probably shouting at the screen now saying that, people buy seats in IndyCar, which historically we have seen a bit of that. But there's got to be a bit more to it than that. And if there's any team that's probably not going to be too interested in the buying seats malarkey, it's probably going to be our McLaren, because they don't really need that money quite as much as others may do.
No, you're absolutely right. We've got enough sponsors on those cars. It's got a name of its own. Arrow McLaren, it speaks volumes. And they've certainly been a name in the last few years around IndyCar. They've certainly made a name for themselves, and they're very easily recognizable. I just would like to see him unpack some of those goods that he can deliver, and I'd just love to see him deliver it. But will I hate on him? Nope. Well, no, because that's not you and I, James. We don't do it about our own drivers. We certainly don't do it about other drivers either. There's a lot of other guys that are struggling the same as Nolan, but the trouble is he's prominent in one of our big teams, which is why we want to see him getting up there.
Yeah, and this is it. And perhaps the biggest issue that he's got is the amount of pressure on him, because when you've got two absolute superstars as teammates,
that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Gonna look like a weaker link. And that's not to say that he is a weak link, but it's going to look that way. If you constantly got two guys fighting for the podium, and you were struggling to get in the top 10.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. You're in a top tier team, okay? A team that the Papaya, wherever you go in the stands, you see Papaya, you see their big trucks in the car park. They make a bit of a statement when they're there. The Papaya team is and so to be the number 3 driver and not performing, had that been another team, they'd probably be going, oh, bless him, he's still doing it. But because it's a top team, and I suppose there's a lot of expectations on him to earn his stripes and earn his pennies in the team.
Yeah, it's and that is the issue, isn't it? I think you look at the standings, it's not helping that the two guys behind him are Stingray Robb and Mick Schumacher.
No.
Not on season 2. Again, we're not going to speak bad of the guys. Mick in his rookie season hasn't been really getting the results that he probably would have hoped for. Stingray Robb is Stingray Robb. I'm not going to talk too much on him, to be honest. He needs to get out of that company. He needs to be getting up there a bit more with the Renus VKs and Rasmussen, Rosenquist. These are the sort of people he needs to be in and thereabouts.
He's got a great racing name, let's be honest. And it's not, we're not seeing that side of him that we would like to see, are we? Let's be honest. We'd like to see him up there in that midfield, pushing people and pushing towards the front. Let's just go back to safety for 2 seconds, though. We saw some pretty horrendous things happening, and to see cars going backwards through the fence and the fence catching them.
Yeah.
Woof. Now that left me going, oh my God, I hope
Yeah.
he's okay. But to see him, that he got out. So just one of the things, I suppose it's always is the safety of these cars now. I'm so pleased that, we are looking at that side of it for the drivers to give them that safety net, no pun intended there, because he got caught up in it. But, having that around him, that cockpit around him, we see that. Yeah, because the last couple of weeks, we've seen some pretty horrendous and high-speed crashes across quite a few different race series.
Yeah, we have done. And historically, we've seen the unfortunate happen when the safety hasn't been quite there. So it's very refreshing to see that, and thankfully, Scotty Mac seemed to be in pretty good spirits after it. It didn't really seem to take too much out of him.
No,
But go back 5 years ago, that might not have been the case.
That go back 5 years ago, that probably definitely wouldn't have been the case, and we'd have probably had him rolling down the hill and then the car rolling over. But you know what? I'm going to give something to the safety team, the IndyCar safety teams. They are there. They are on the scene so quickly. They get those flags out. They get those, they get the track slowed right down to get the safety stuff done. And get credit where credit's due. Those guys are there. They're quick on the scene, aren't they? And they're assessing that and making that dynamic risk assessment of how to get people out quickly. And I just think for other race series, they're a great model of what safety should be like and how they can respond. Some would say they shut the tracks down too quick and they're too quick to do this, but no, I actually like the safety side of it because, I want to see my driver racing again next week.
Yeah, exactly. Very much so. Before we move on to the final part then, Keith, I'm just going to go back to number 7 car, just so we got
let's go back.
The 5, 6, we get on to 7. 2 podiums out of 4. It's coming, Keith. He had a 3rd in the open race of the season. He had a 2nd now in Barber.
It's in grasp. It's well within reach. He's going to get that top step. He's going to take he's going to be at the top step of that podium, and it's not in the too far future. He's got this. It's there. No. He wants it. He needs it, and he's going to take it.
It is coming this year. We've seen some fantastic overtakes, and like you said earlier on, safely, fairly. This is the important thing. He's not lunging and then whacking into the side of a car, and everything he's doing is with precision.
He catches people out because he passes them where they don't expect him to be able to get that car to fit, and he does his lunge and he goes through it, and then he doesn't brake, test them afterwards. He just keeps that pace and pushes forwards and creates that distance, that natural safe distance. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it's a nice step forward after we saw a great debut season at McLaren from him last year. We was all kind of wondering, hoping that he could have kept that form. Wasn't quite sure if he could have, but he most definitely has. In fact, I'd probably go as far as saying he's improved on it. Here he is currently 3rd in the championship and was fighting for that lead.
He's flying. He's certainly flying the papaya flag, isn't he? He's flying that papaya flag big time. And he's cementing himself within a team. He's proving that he's worthy, of that seat and of that car. And you are right. And I think it's going to be multiple wins. I don't think it's going to be a one-off first top of the step of the podium this year. I think there's real potential to be multi-top steps if we can knock Alex off the top.
I'd agree with you. And I think that the further the season goes on, the more pressure we're going to be seeing put on Pato then, and then we're going to see them pushing each other,
That's what we hope.
Exactly. In the right direction. Yeah. So before we finish off then, Keith, as we said, race 4 is down.
Yep.
In the opening 4 races of the season, what's been your highlight of the 4 races? What sticks in your mind?
That's a cracker, that is, because I've really enjoyed each race. I'm going to say what I'm going to take out of my top 4 races this year is they are racing. We've not got one person out front and we're only getting the midfield. We are seeing the top 5 cars pushing each other. We're seeing a lot of racing this year. So for me, it is being racy. I like racing, to be racy. And that probably sounds a bit lame, but I do like to see the cars pushing each other and taking each other. I'm going to say at the moment, my top moment is the fact that they are pushing one another, and the qualifying. We're seeing different qualifying, and I'm liking what I'm seeing for this season, the beginning of this season.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Keith. Just the competitiveness appears to be
Mm,
back.
mm.
As we
What's
said, you
yours,
know,
James? What's your take? What's been your favourite or outstanding moments to yourself? What are you taking away from it?
well, I sort of agree in one aspect of what you're saying. A lot more competitive, a lot more racing, a
Mm.
lot more looking at a race and thinking that someone other than Palou can win.
Hmm.
But I'm just going to go completely biased here, Keith. Every race we've seen a lunge from Lundgard, and that's my highlight of the season so far.
We have seen him. Yeah, I suppose I'm not suppose it is. It's a definite cracker there because yes, we have seen the lunge. We have seen the lunge on every race so far. We've seen him doing one of his overtakes where he just sits back and you can almost feel it coming. He's setting them up. He's pushing them each lap. He's making sure that he's moving over. He's looking for that window and then boom, that push to pass. Or even sometimes I don't even think it's on push to pass. A lot of the time I think he's just foot to the floor and he's
Yeah,
just. I'm not sure if he closed it. We need to have him on here. Does he close his eyes? Does he do that? Oh, can I fit? Oh, I did.
yeah,
Because
yeah. Um, I mean, hopefully that's going to be one for the future, Keith.
wouldn't it
You
be
know,
great?
we've got a few things lined up over here over the next year or so.
We certainly have.
We're going to
We
take
certainly.
baby steps with this, and we're going to get us where we need to. And fingers crossed, we're going to get one or two of that Aaron McLaren team on you with us discussing, and then we can ask him outright, do you close your eyes? We'll get the answer. To finish off then, to wrap up nicely, Keith, going into race 5 of the season, what are you
Yeah.
hoping for?
I'm hoping for a papaya podium. Is what I'm hoping for. I'd like to see 2 cars, if not 3. But I'm going to go with our 2 top drivers at the moment. I would love to see a double papaya podium. That's what I would really. That would make my season so far. Would be to see, the 5 and the 7 stood on the podium together, taking those steps and really shouting out loud to our team.
Couldn't put it better myself, Keith. What else could I ask for? Maybe 3
Well,
on the podium, but I think even for the most optimistic, that's a little bit much to be hoping for at this stage.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm going to settle with you on that one, Keith. 2
double
on the
papaya
podium.
podium. Yeah.
So I think we're going to leave it there for this week, Keith.
Yeah, but just before we go, though, let's just give it one more time. Ladies and gents, there is a competition running. There is a competition running. Okay, please go onto our social medias, put your guess in. How many different caps can Keith wear throughout this season? And I'm going to give you a hint. He's done quite a few already. I did a coffee catch up this morning, and you'll notice it's not the same one. So how many will I wear? New Era have given me the opportunity to have a great competition with you guys because of my collection. So do you know what? Put your bid in. James, have you put your bid in?
Oh, my bid's in, Keith. Looking at the early days, though, I think I might need to put my bid up a little bit higher because he's getting to a concerning level already, Keith.
And that's what we want. So how many can Keith do? And what people are really saying, James, is how many has Keith got on the wall then?
Yeah, how many can he not reach because they're up on the top shelf?
And I'm not giving that away because someone might take that as my top guess.
Very much so. So we're looking forward to double papaya in Long Beach.
That's what
And
we want.
how many more hats can Keith wear? Maybe we'll have 2 for that episode if we do get 2 on the podium.
And now, if we get 2 on the podium, you just know that's going to happen. I'll have to wear 1 forward and 1 back so I can keep turning sideways.
Most definitely.
But you know what, James? I have actually got another one coming. There is a special number 5 from Barber on its way to Keith now because one of my fellow fans out there did something for me, and when I saw a certain person, and I've got yet another one to wear sometime this season. So
Absolutely
your guess is up by another one because it's coming.
We look forward to seeing that, Keith, for sure. We will definitely look forward to seeing that. So we're going to leave that there for this episode, Keith, and finish us off as only you can do.
Well, do you know what? Ladies and gents, just remember, never stop racing.